Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining in today to Body Ecology Living with me, Donna Gates. You know, our thoughts are so fast, it's hard to catch them. But why do we think a particular thought or feel a particular way in the first place? New science is proving that it is our core beliefs that control our thought patterns, provide fuel for our emotions, drive the chemical changes in our body, and essentially produce our reactions and attractions to the external world. My guest today is Karl Dawson, longtime friend, somebody I've been following his work for years. I'm so excited that he agreed to be a guest on our podcast. And he is one of only 29 EFT masters worldwide. Over the last 10 years, he's worked extensively to teach thousands of practitioners from all over the globe how to transform their emotional health, to overcome physical and psychological disease by releasing stress and trauma from their energy systems using EFT and Matrix Reimprinting. Now, that might be a new term for you. I think everybody knows EFT by now, but what is Matrix Reimprinting? Well, Karl has presented at energy psychology conferences worldwide, including the United States, Asia, Europe, and Australia. He was also a presenter at the Hay House I Can Do It conference in London and other large conventions, presenting alongside Louise Hay, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, Lynn McTaggart, Caroline Mace, and other leaders from the self-help industry. He is the co-author of 2 best-selling Hay House books, Matrix Reimprinting Using EFT, and Transform Your Beliefs, Transform Your Life. And that's really the book that we're going to talk about mostly today. Transform Your Beliefs, Transform Your Life. So, Karl, welcome and thank you so much for spending your busy time with us today.
Hi, Donna. Wonderful to be with you and talk to you after it's been quite a few years.
I know.
I was thinking earlier today when it was, and I believe it was around 2007 that I came over to Atlanta to study with you. And I spent, it was 5 days back then. You was doing a 5-day introduction to body ecology diet. And yeah, absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. I was so honored that you came. I thought, wow, Karl came all the way from England to study with me. And I just knew right away that you were a really special person, that you had true desire to help people and would do anything you had to do to learn and make that possible. But, you know, and I also remember at that training that you went through a EFT process with me. I don't remember exactly what it was about, but that was my first experience with EFT and opened the door for me. And I know it was valuable. I don't remember what it was about or what changes happened, but it was from then on that EFT started showing up everywhere. And I was so excited.
I remember the session, actually, Donna. It was, that's probably not a thing to mention on air. Is it okay if I mention what it was about?
Yeah, probably so.
It was about the loss of your father. Wasn't he a fireman? Or certainly he died in a...
I know he was a pilot.
A pilot. It was, yeah, he died in a heroic situation, didn't he?
Yeah.
When he was quite...
He was already badly burned, 3rd-degree burns, and but he called out for help, and he heard some other men calling out for help, and he got to them, and they pulled him down into this room, and they were scared and panicking, and he calmed them down and had them all lie down below the smoke so that they could, they didn't know how to do that, I guess. And he prayed with them, and they got very calm, and then he showed them how to tap out a message on the bulkhead of the ship that was heard by the rescuers, and they cut down and got all those men out. And but he was the love of my life, so it was a really difficult time. I was 7.
You were 7. Okay, so
yeah. So I don't, a lot of the stuff I've dealt with in my own feelings and releasing of stuff really has always gone back to the loss of him.
Yeah.
When something really traumatic happens and it is a life-changing, life-altering event, do you think people can actually clear it, or do they tend to clear it in layers?
Absolutely. It is possible to clear, and that's what we can do with EFT and Matrix Reimprinting. The trauma itself is important. What I've found, Donna, over the years, and this is what Matrix has helped me understand, is the trauma itself is important, but what's more important is in that moment of trauma, when we feel that powerlessness and that threat to survival, we split part of ourselves off, which in Matrix Reimprinting we call the echo, But what's so important is in that moment we make a belief, a decision about ourselves and the world. And once that's there, we are amazing at kind of based on that belief of attracting situations that reinforce that belief. We create situations and we look for proof of that belief. And I know, obviously, historically, you suffered with fibromyalgia. And
I used to be
I've
so
worked with,
unhealthy.
absolutely. And what I found with, literally dozens of people I've worked with, a lot of my close team are women who've recovered from fibromyalgia, that there's always a belief there. For example, the world's a dangerous place. They're always perfectionists. They're always highly driven. And there's usually a degree of self-worth and self-value issues there. But the key thing is that belief that the world's a dangerous place. Now, this might come back to this memory of your father, the loss of him, and the situation. And you find that once that belief's there, that's what creates so much stress. You'll find that with fibromyalgia that you never sleep deeply because once you've got that belief that the world's a little bit dangerous, that you can never sleep properly. You never go into the fourth stage of sleep. So you're always some degree of fight and flight. So you imagine over the years as the toll that takes on a person. And I'm sure with all the work you've done and with the knowledge you have, and obviously you've recovered from fibromyalgia, and obviously the body ecology diet and what you've developed there.
Yeah, but I think that interestingly enough, when I started doing Chinese medicine and going first, I studied acupuncture for a year myself, but then I, of course, believe in acupuncture, so I go to Chinese doctors and all. And it's interesting because consistently they always point out the weakness and my sort of like a core constitutional weakness in my lungs. And I think that's definitely for sure gotten better over the years, definitely. But lungs are sadness. In Chinese medicine, lungs are sadness.
Absolutely, and some of the other diagnostics, the German medicine, lung issues around fear of death conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fear, and basically on a biological level, what's happening there is that you get kind of changes in the little bronchioles and the tiny little things that allow you to take on the oxygen, and that's why it's connected with kind of fears that you need a bigger area to be able to take in the oxygen, because that fear that you need to breathe, you need to take an oxygen as like a key component of survival.
Do you think, though, that people become poor breathers because of traumas like this? I mean, they start holding their breath. I have just, hold my breath.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lady today, I'm running a course, and there was there with asthma, and her father was bipolar, and bipolar is affective disorder, and said as a child he was so unpredictable. He could fly off in a rage at any time that she felt like she literally couldn't breathe. It's kind of metaphorical, but also that's the way she felt. I can't breathe. And that resulted in childhood asthma. So, yeah, there's always a connection between, no disease is an accident. Back in 2006 or 7, when I came to see you, Donna, on one side of me, it was thinking it's all about nutrition and diet and toxicity. Then the other side, I'd already found EFT, and I was thinking, it's about resolving trauma and changing negative beliefs. And I was kind of jumping between the two sides for quite a while. And eventually it just dawned on me, it's kind of so obvious, but I was new to the industry. That basically, if you're eating badly, if you're not getting the nutrients and only what you need, if you destroy your gut flora, then, of course, your ability to deal with your life and your traumas, and you're so much more susceptible. I see it as this metaphor like a limbo bar. As your diet and nutrition, and you self-medicate through drugs and alcohol and cigarettes, and then of course you get your immune system gets compromised, so you end up getting sick, and you go to the doctors and all the side effects of medications. So that whole bar is getting lower and lower and lower. So your ability to deal with your stress and your daily beliefs, it creates more and more stress. So eventually, you can't get under that limbo bar. You knock the bar off, and now you're into some serious illness. So, ultimately, what I've done, I've always been a massive advocate of your work, and anybody that I work with autoimmune disease, we go and work with their traumas and their beliefs. But I also say it's incredibly important that they do look at rebuilding their immunity. Then that way, if you work on both sides, you can really get back to health.
I would absolutely 100% agree with that, because it's really, I know probably I still have, sadness and stuff around my father leaving, because it was so sudden, it was so life changing. The other thing too is, I've had my genes tested, and I really have lots of bad genes, but I eat so well that I never express those bad genes. I'm super healthy. I've gotten rid of lots and lots of physical toxins over the years, and all of that has given me a kind of a core happiness, like a core, basically I'm a happy person with this stuff. So but I noticed that I always know when I'm stuck, like when I find everything is more difficult to do and I'm not getting much done and I'm frustrated, there's something there that if I get help, get somebody else to do something like you're doing, it's profound. I mean, it just changes, it leaps and bounds you forward in your health, so they're so complementary. I don't think anybody that's just focusing on their health is doing the right thing. They have to add this piece to the picture, of the healing picture. They belong together.
Absolutely. You've got to look at the whole holistic side of emotional and physical health. And but to quote Bruce Lipton, I know we're both huge fans of Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Mm-hmm.
He said,
right.
there's only 3 ways you can get sick. But one is through physical trauma, as in you have an accident, you break a bone, you break your back, or where the signals don't propagate through the body.
Uh-huh.
The other 2 ways are through toxicity. You're toxic, and the systems dealing with all the toxicity, and the signals are not traveling through the body because of as the bad foods that we eat, the bad oils, the toxic chemicals, and all the things that are in the modern day diet. And the third way, he says, is through belief. Obviously, the title of his book, The Biology of Belief.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at those 3 things, if you've not got a broken bone, or something's not actually physically broken, then the only things you can look at is toxicity, what you're putting in the system, and the beliefs, what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm. Which are toxic too.
Absolutely, they are. And he also says, basically the thought is 100 times more powerful as an effector on the body than molecules. So what we think is absolutely a huge part of our issues. And I just find it fascinating, that interplay between our issues that we have, the diseases that we suffer from. There's a direct link. There's no accidents here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you can look at different diseases and why people, if you look at autoimmune diseases, for example, the 120 or 30 autoimmune diseases, some of the common ones like fibromyalgia and type 2 diabetes and arthritis and Crohn's, and
autism.
The body's always attacking itself in some shape or form. Why should the body attack itself?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you pinpoint the belief with fibromyalgia. It's attacking the joints. It's attacking the muscles. What's it doing? Basically through the tiredness and pain, it's taking you out of society. You can't make those decisions, or you won't make those decisions yourself. So after all these years of all the stress, it takes you, it keeps you in the house. A bit like depression does the same thing. It's the body making changes to adapt to the perception. If it's stressful out there, the body makes changes. No, you can't go out there. No, you're safe.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes too, there's always a good and some good that comes out of the trauma. I think I know with my father, some of the things that happened at the last hours of his death, what he did to save those men, and I've had this little heroine script in me ever since then that makes me feel that I want to help people too, and and then so that actually was a positive driving force, to want to change the way, in my opinion, changed my what I settled on, because I have such a love for food and healing. But to change the way the world eats so people can be healthier, emotionally and physically healthier, really probably stems from that first and foremost. The positive came out of it, but you've got to clear out all the things that hold you back from doing the positive, I think, and that's where your work is so critical.
Absolutely. There's an upside and a downside to everything, and absolutely, I see that with all our traumas and these beliefs. Again, through the Matrix work, when we go back into these events and you realize everything goes back before the age of 6, and invariably, back to in the womb, the day you was born, you get to see that, your whole life purpose gets tied up in belief systems. Obviously, a lot of the time we're oblivious of what these beliefs are. But once we make these beliefs, and the new book, Transform Your Beliefs, we come to this conclusion that I realized a couple of years ago, that we all come down to, we have one very specific belief that we run. And even 10 years into this work, it was only about a year ago that I found what my belief was. And then a lot of people are, want to realize that we have lots of little sub-beliefs, and the outcomes of these beliefs, the stress that creates things like allergies and pain and disease and relationship issues and on and on. But I have this metaphor of, it's like a bamboo tree. And with the bamboo tree, that's the core issue, is the belief. And from that, you get these little things that pop up around the garden, the little roots that come up powerfully. And it seems like there's no connection to the main tree, but there is. And the connection is always the belief. So when you talk about, that decision maybe as a little girl, I want to be like, your dad was your hero. And I want to be like daddy, I want to be a hero. And that's what you've obviously done with the work you do, the tireless, endless work you've done for all these decades, Donna, helping other people. It won't surprise me at all if all this originates from that little girl's decision with the loss of your father saying, I'm going to help people just like daddy.
Yeah, probably so. I've thought that often. And I do think that there's always the stuff that's still down there, other little beliefs that you're bumping into all the time. So what drew you to EFT to begin with? Did you have your own issues? And then explain what EFT is, and then explain what matrix reimprinting is. How did we get to that?
Okay, so I'll try to keep this brief, because this is things I can talk about for a long while. But back in 2002, I was going through the dark night of the soul. Everything fell apart. I had a prolapse disc in my lower back, L5 and sacrum. You mentioned lots of allergies, lots of pain in my knees and neck and shoulders, absolutely riddled with pain. I was more and more foods I was struggling to eat. My confidence was rock bottom. Once I was in a deep depression, but just life was meaningless. And when these problems came up with, I went for tests with bowel cancer, and had an endoscopy. And when I went to the doctor with the back problems, it was always the same answer. This is what it probably is. We don't know what's caused it. We can't do anything about it. So I had to start looking. And I was very lucky that I found Gary Craig and EFT back in about 2003, and just dove straight into that. But then also, so 2005-06, then came across your work with body ecology. So that's where it started. EFT, of course, it's based on acupuncture, based on Chinese medicine and the meridian system. The difference is it's so quick and easy to learn. I know you started, as you said, learning acupuncture, and after a year, that would just be kind of an introduction to acupuncture. To be an acupuncturist, you're looking at 3, 5, 7 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I quit because I thought, this isn't really what I want to do. And that's how I eventually got into the food part.
Well, the simplicity of EFT is that the points we use, there's some key points around the head, the face, the hands, a couple around the body, which correspond with organs. And the way I see it is this: when you're traumatized, and I'll go back to this expression of the echo, that younger you, that basically in that moment of trauma, when you felt powerlessness and threat to survival, that part of you splits off. So this is a well-known phenomenon across the whole board of therapy, whether you're in psychotherapy and the idea of parts, trauma capsules, to more hypnotherapy and timeline, where they call it inner child, to soul retrieval. But basically this idea that part of you splits off. Consciously, in that moment, you just remember, you process something like 40 bits of information. But subconscious in that moment processes 40 million bits of information. So you hold on to every single thought and feeling, what was going on with the autonomic nervous system, what was in the meridians. Everything is held by these echoes. And we hold these in our fields. And basically, the way I see EFT works is that when we look at these memories, or a life event triggers us back into it, that information starts to come back into the body, and we re-experience everything we felt, which is the most common fear. So maybe for the listeners here, just think of public speaking. Imagine standing up there in front of 1,000 people, and if you close your eyes and imagine that, you'll start to experience things. Now, different people experience different things, and what they're experiencing is exactly what they felt when they were originally traumatized. they re-experience that. It's kind of a warning. It's like, this is a potentially dangerous situation. And of course, that creates stress. I also see it as, back then, this is what your body did. This is what all your organs, how they behaved. And it was perceptually life and death. But you got through it. You survived. The same thing again. If your organs, all that information comes back in and you do the same thing again, you'll get through this event again. So kind of, there's a survival, there's a protection element of this. But of course, a lot of the time when we do this, it's an inappropriate response to our current situation. So EFT, we would look at tuning into those feelings. So it's like, oh, this sick feeling in my stomach. We tap on these meridian points as we tuned into these feelings, and it's like we turn off that signal. So when you go back to that memory, you don't feel it anymore. So that was basic summary of EFT. So it's almost like watching a movie, but the movie's from your life. And when we first look at the movie, and it could be a horror movie or a sad movie or a traumatic movie, that after we've tapped through these points and all these different elements of that memory, we look at the memory, it has no emotional effect on us anymore. And of course, then that affects how we deal with our lives in the future. With matrix reimprinting, how it differs is, if you have the analogy of EFT be like watching a movie and changing your relationship to that movie, matrix reimprinting would be like watching a play and being the director of the play. There's a realization with matrix that when we split these parts off, it creates this hologram in our fields. It actually gives us the ability to step into this memory. And it's almost like stepping through a portal into a quantum dimension where you can actually communicate directly with these echoes. So this is not a new phenomenon. It's well known in lots of different therapies. But what we bring to this is the ability to tap on these echoes to actually resolve the trauma, which happens very, very quickly when you work directly with these echoes, these younger yous. It allows the echo to move through that trauma in our subconscious minds. Whilst consciously these events are over and done with, on the subconscious level, there's still current events ongoing, and that is how we perceive on a subconscious level in our lives. So once we've gone and allowed these echoes trauma, we find out what the belief decision was that was made that day, and then that allows us to change that perception. So as a simple example, it might be original memories, the issues with a person that they believe that they're stupid. And they go back to this specific memory, they're 7 years old, and the little girl's trying to do her homework, and dad's getting impatient and shouting at her, and of course creating more and more stress, and she just shuts down. And dad says, "Oh, you stupid girl." So we'd go into that point, we'd tap on the little girl to move her through that trauma. We'd tap on the father to calm him down. We recreate this as the director of this play, where dad's now saying, "Oh, you're a clever little girl, let me help you." And that's what then becomes the new subconscious memory. If you just imagine this being different, it makes no difference because it's a conscious act. But actually, when you step into the matrix and you change it in this dimension, then we can actually change what happens on a subconscious level. So now that person has that one memory. Now, of course, we might have to go to quite a few memories, depending on what the belief is, to actually create a critical mass of. If you've been running a pattern for a long time, then there could be lots of memories and lots of beliefs in there. But if we go and methodically just go and change the key memories, then it changes our belief systems. We come out of stress, and the body's digital. It's in heal and grow or in stress.
When you start working with somebody, do they come to you with the problem? They might say, "I'm so frustrated, I'm doing everything right, I just can't seem to create prosperity in my life," or whatever, I have self-worth issues and I don't know where they come from. Can you help me clear that? Or do you discover where the trauma began?
Yeah, they always come with an issue. They don't come with, I've got some childhood memories I'd like you to sort out for me. They come in with, I've got pain, I've got an illness, I've got, say, a relationship problem, I've got, procrastination, I can't seem to move forward in my career. The whole gamut. It could be playing golf, it could be. So that's where they come, from that starting point. But that's a fascinating thing. We've developed very simple techniques within EFT and Matrix to get from you to actually where the problem lies. For example, if you thought of an issue yourself, Donna, You said maybe you said that you push yourself all the time, and you have no time for yourself. That you just constantly trying to get your work out there, help people. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's always a project behind a project behind a project, and I want to get them done.
Yeah, absolutely. So just, for example, if you just, somebody's asked you to do something and you think, I'm not going to do that. Just think about that. What does it make you feel in your body when you imagine, no, I'm not going to do that?
That I can't help somebody. that there's somebody out there that I would help if I did it, and if I don't do it, I can't help them.
And where's the emotion of that, Donna? Where do you feel that in your body when you think of that?
Oh, let's see. Maybe stomach, maybe?
Okay. And what's that feeling like in your stomach, Donna?
Just like a tightness.
It's a tightness in your stomach.
Yeah, like a gripping at the top of my stomach.
Like a gripping tightness in your stomach. Okay. That gripping tightness, does it have a colour to that gripping tightness in your stomach? What would the colour
be? Yellow, maybe? I don't know.
It's yellow. Okay. What would be the emotion of that gripping yellow tightness in your stomach? If it had an emotion, what would that be? Just whatever comes to mind.
Just a stressful, feeling of stress.
This is just stress. Yeah, stress, yellow, gripping. Just without thinking about it, just tell me an earlier time you felt that in your life. How old would you be when you felt that before? Just what age comes to mind?
Or probably years, the years after my father died, they were very stressful. So probably from that, yeah.
Okay.
I was left with a very dysfunctional mother, and she was very miserable, and she had a right to be, but it was difficult for her and everybody, all my brother and sister.
No, okay. So you're doing a bit of a kind of a head analysis now. Just tell me how old you would be when you felt that.
7.
7. Where would you be when you're 7 years old and you're feeling that? Just tell me where you'd be. You'd be at home, you'd be at school.
Yeah, I seem to be. The memory that comes up is a house that we lived in, that we moved to after he died.
Okay, can you see yourself in the house that day?
Yep, I can.
And what's that day in the house, that specific day?
I think it's so silly. I think I wanted my mother to play with me, spend some time and talk to me, and do something with us. And she was always just sitting in the chair like a zombie, reading magazines, just decorating magazines. She loved to do that, and she wouldn't do anything with us. And I don't know, maybe from that, I'm not sure. That's what comes up.
Okay, no, that's perfect. Okay, if there's another time you felt old or younger, where you felt the same feeling, how old would you be? And don't think, just tell me age.
When I was punished by my mom and dad for running around the grocery store and my mother told me not to, and I kept doing it anyway.
How old are you in this memory, Donna?
Probably just soon before that, and soon before my father died. It's all happened in the same time frame.
Okay, you can see yourself, you're there running around. And another time, you could be older or younger. How old would you be? Just whatever comes to mind. What age would you be?
And another time?
Yeah.
I don't remember any stressful time before that because, the funeral, that was stressful. Well, I didn't go to the funeral. They'd buried him, and then they took us to the grave, and they said, here's your dad. He's buried here. And that was stressful.
Okay.
Too. But before that, I was this real cocky, happy kid that thought I owned the world. And so before that, I didn't have a lot of stress. I don't remember it anyway.
Right. You keep saying the word stressful, yeah, but it's how you react to these various situations. So that could be maybe something that stresses you in life, and why you push yourself hard. That giving yourself value for what you feeling valued. So there's a mixture there of like father wanting to help people and be a hero, but also giving yourself value by helping people. This becomes your self-worth and your self-value. Because as a little girl, there's times when you didn't feel that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that's what.
And I think, like many, many people, so many of my girlfriends and all of us have these conversations that what holds us back when something's holding us back. It's always a core issue of self-worth. Like somehow you got the message that you're not valuable.
No, absolutely, and the first page of Louise Hay's book, all of our core belief is that we're not good enough in some shape or form, but we make it mean a lot more specific than that. This is about your self-worth, and it's a bit different. It's more specific than that general term of not being good enough. I mean, everybody on the planet say in some shape or form not good enough. But this is more specific to you, Donna. And I say, this is maybe what drives you. So again, that double-edged sword that you talk about, the upside and downside. The upside is, all the amazing work accomplished over the last few decades with the body ecology diet. But the downside is, you just keep pushing yourself endlessly. And, where's the time for Donna? And that could be, and I can certainly identify, hopefully I'm not projecting here, but I can certainly, you'll see that within the work I do. I'm so focused on what I do. And, we was talking previously before we came on air that, we just can go weeks and weeks and weeks and we do nothing, but there's always something else to do in the work. We're passionate about it, but, we should, find some balance as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the principles of body ecology, is the principle of balance, and I'm quite aware that I'm not following it all the time. I do with food, but not with other aspects of my life.
We teach best what we need to learn. That's the case, isn't it?
So do you think, okay, so now we've defined my issue. And so would I then take the matrix reimprinting and go back to that time and clear it? Or just talking me through it right now is already made me, my stomach feels better already.
No, absolutely. Just finding the memories is one thing, but that's not going to change anything. You can go and find it, through many means. We would then go into each of these memories and we would work specifically with each of these echoes. And what I was just trying to get is how we find the actual beliefs, but then once we kind of pinpoint what it is, we know what we need to go in there, and we just get them, little Donna, to go and be able to, the opposite of the belief, where she did feel valued and important, and that's what we'd look at changing. So I'm just using this as an example of with yourself, but it could be somebody comes in with pain or a phobia or an allergy. We can into the energy of that. All these things have energy. When I'm talking about energy, I'm talking information, and that feeling. Think of think of a phobia, and often I'll give you an example of this. There was a lady I worked with a few years ago who had an incredibly intense fear of flying. And she had no idea where it came from. For much of her life, she was absolutely fine, never had a bad flight, but then had this fear of flying. So we tuned into the energy, and it took her back to 9/11. And watching that, she was Spanish, lived in the UK, but saw it on television. And that was the root of it. Oh, sorry, but that was where the flying became a problem. But we then asked her, where does it go back to? And one of the techniques is once we have these echoes, when we go and work with a specific echo, we ask the echo itself where to go back to. And it took her back to a memory. She's 6 years old. And she sat there at home on her own. There's like a bay window. And Dad's gone to get Mother from the hospital. And Dad comes back a while later, and he's carrying Mum's things. He comes in the house and says to the little girl, excuse me, says to the little girl, Mummy's with the angels. Never going to be coming home again. And of course, that's usually traumatic. And when I asked the lady, what's the belief that connects these together? And she said, I know what it is. People will die unexpectedly. And also the connection with kind of flying and angels and the 9/11.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that's what the subconscious does. It connects these events together. This is why as you get older, we kind of globalize these beliefs and these events. And if you noticed, unless you do work, Donna, the vast majority of people who don't do any work, as you get older, you think you'd be better equipped to deal with life situations, but it's not the case. Things get worse, it gets harder, because we have this kind of globalization of the subconscious that we end up with these, phobias that get completely out of context from where they started and get, huge big phobias or depression and anxieties. But, you can always tune into the energy of even things like depression. Very unique. One person, it might be feeling like there's all the energy from the body. Somebody else might be like a big gray shape in the body. But you can tune into that information and very quickly, as I did with you, take that from that down to specific events, look at a series of events, and you'll always find a belief that connects them all. And then once you've got that, then we'll go in there and start to resolve these memories and change that belief and that perception.
Well, I'm going to come over there to England and have you clear that one in me. I want to ask you, though, about this mind-body connection, because, everybody hears that there is a connection between the mind and body. And They intellectually, I think, get it, but they don't really get anything below that. Like they don't have a real sense really what that means. You just said something that reminded me as people, I mean, I'm sure that all this stuff we're holding on to, all these other emotional toxins that we collect throughout our life and these beliefs are very much causing us to age. And as you said, instead of getting older and wiser and letting things go, we don't let them go. But it also reminded me when you said that another thing, for example, that happens to women and men too, but especially to women, is that they get estrogen dominant. They're not producing healthy estrogen, but they're producing too much of the wrong kind of estrogen, and then that makes them produce more serotonin. Too much serotonin makes you depressed. And so now you've got these early life beliefs that you've been holding on your entire life, nagging at you way back in the subconscious mind. And then you've got physical stuff happening too. Like that, because with a high serotonin, people like that they want to withdraw from the world. They want to stay in their pajamas all day and not go out and do anything fun. And you think, well, that's just how old people get. I mean, I'd love to get your opinion on how we would age if we cleared all this stuff, and then also a little bit more about the mind-body connection. Is there anything particularly that you'd want to use as an example or explain to us to help us understand the mind-body connection?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what we're saying about these chemical changes, the serotonin levels, everything. The body's an amazing chemical factory. When somebody has the chemical levels, you go to a doctor and they'll say, okay, you're depressed because your chemicals are out of balance. It's like, why is it out of balance? And that's back to what I'm saying, is the body's adapting to this stress and perception. So, like with fibromyalgia, with depression, the body, what's the body doing? It's trying to get you under the duvet covers and stay there and not leave the house, not leave the bedroom, because it's the stress of being out there. So again, different people would have different stresses. With the mind-body connection, I just find it amazing with modern medicine. You've got Merck's manual, for example, with all the hundreds and hundreds of diseases. In most of the diseases, they will tell you this is what's wrong with the body.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to cause, and it's a huge percentage, the cause unknown. I mean, it's just kind of obvious,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Modern medicine, based on Newtonian science, it looks at the body as a machine. So you go to the doctor and they look at the stomach, or they look at the throat, or they look at the brain, or they look at the eyes, or whatever it is. They don't look at the whole system. They don't look at your work, what's going into the system, what's the toxins. They don't look at my side of things. What's the beliefs, what's the traumas, what's the creating the problems. How many times do you hear a doctor say that's stress related? I mean, a vast amount of diseases this day. What stress? Stress is about going into fight and flight. When you go into fight and flight, it changes just about every single bodily system. From cognitive behavior, the blood is squeezed from the frontal cortex, and you go into the reptilian brain, so your cognitive abilities. Anybody that's done an exam will know that. You go into the exam, first question, what's your name? Oh, my name, what's my name?
And like another stressful thing is your stomach gets real tight. Just when I started remembering stress. Well. Yeah, that's a big one. The digestive tract shuts down right away.
Digestive shuts down, absolutely. The reproductive organs, when you're stressed, don't do well. Men, have erectile problems. Women have fertility problems. The immune system shuts down. When the body is perceived to be under threat, that the cells will seal up. They'll hold on to toxins, so you become more toxic, and they won't take on proteins, the building blocks, to replenish the cells. All the blood costs to measure muscle groups. So it's hard work on the heart. So you can have palpitations, high blood pressure. I mean, it's just so obvious, isn't it, Donna? And the whole thing is, why are you reacting like this? And it's just basically how you're perceiving and reacting to your environment puts you into some degree of fight and flight. If you keep doing it for long enough and you can't get out of it, the body will make these changes. So to me, that's the simple answer of the mind-body connection. And again, back to our hero, Dr. Bruce Lipton, his old book. For anybody that's not come across Bruce Lipton, just read The Biology of Belief. It explains it perfectly on a biological level. It's not about the genes and how the genes are reacting. It's about how the cells react to the external environment.
The epigenetics, yeah. Well, Do you, do you remember a time after we met? Because I was working with very closely working with a lot of families with autism, and we
Yes.
did a phone call where we got a bunch of the moms on the phone, and you worked with a woman through her beliefs. It's so interesting because she was her voice. First of all, we're all on the phone together on a conference call, so you couldn't see each other, but you could so tell the changes that were happening in her through her voice. And she went from being this kind of mousy, it's kind of, you could hear fear in her voice, actually, I thought. And then you started working with her, and she changed amazingly so. And what came out of that was, guilt. Guilt, that's what I wanted to bring up, because so many parents of children with autism, guilt is hugely paralyzing for them. And this
Yeah.
woman had that guilt, and you began to work with her through that, and she changed right there. It was just extraordinary to me. And then I began to really feel that a major part of this recovering kids from autism really has to be this kind of work too, with the mothers. We weren't even working with the child.
Absolutely.
Do you want to, I know because we're running out of time, do you have a really fantastic story that you would want to share with us, showing how effective Matrix is, the Matrix Reimprinting really is? Or do you probably have a billion, lots of stories?
Yeah, Donna, we've got literally hundreds of examples of some great ones in the new book. Just one from recent course, just a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, Donna. I did a course, and there was an Indian lady on the course, and one of her issues was high blood pressure. Now, during the course, she worked with several memories that she'd kind of blocked out. As we do with these early traumas, we create amnesia, and we completely block these memories out. These memories came up to the surface of being sexually abused by a family member when she was very young. She got some resolution with these memories through EFT and Matrix. And then she never really mentioned anything about her issues with blood pressure until after the course. I was at the airport waiting to fly out to Bulgaria, and she called me and said, "I've got to tell you this. When I was on the course, I decided to stop taking the medication, which was her choice. We would never comment on taking medication. And she said, I went to the doctor today because I knew I was just feeling so much better. And I was on blood pressure medication because previous visits to the doctor, my blood pressure was 170 over 120. I'm not taking medication for a week, and my blood pressure now is 120 over 80. It's perfectly normal." The doctor was absolutely amazed. He said, "How have you done that in 1 week?" Especially, having come off the medication as well. And it was just simple as that, having resolved these big traumatic memories and the belief and the effects on the body, you really start to heal almost miraculously. I'm not saying everything we do is just, a few taps here and there and everything goes away. But when you go to these specific memories and really start to resolve these traumas, some magical things do happen.
And that is a perfect example of a mind-body connection. You cleared it in her belief system, and her body immediately responded. That's brilliant. Well, where
So,
can people find courses? Where can they find an practitioner, an EFT Matrix practitioner, so they can get help? Because I think everybody would. I don't think there's probably anybody that doesn't have things to clear, whether they're high functioning or really depressed, or
oh, absolutely.
parents. I mean, I love in your book you've got a whole chapter on conscious parenting. That's a powerful chapter. And then you've also got one on managing pain, handling stress, anxiety, and depression, recovering from abuse, loving your body image. Who loves their body unless they're gorgeous? And then achieving our goals, creating a life beyond belief. It's a wonderful book. I mean, even if you just skipped to that part of it, and then decide to go find a practitioner. But where do people? How can they get to the courses and find an EFT practitioner to get help?
Okay, the easiest way, matrixreimprinting.com. That's the home of Matrix Reimprinting. We have got around 25 Matrix trainers worldwide. So we've got 3 or 4 very good ones in the US, a few in California. We've got 2 up in Canada. We've got them in Australia, South Africa. Quite a few. All the different languages like Spanish and French and German. So you can find out the various courses worldwide there. Also, a list of practitioners across the world.
Yeah, does somebody have to Well, probably they don't have to go to a course unless they want to be a practitioner, right? Or the courses are actually for helping people get help, uh, help for their issue during the course, or the course is a training course for practitioners, I guess is my question.
Well, basically, the courses, I have people that come for self-help. I've had a lot of people with things like fibromyalgia, and they just came for fibromyalgia. Actually, many of them went on and became amazing practitioners.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, just something about it. I love women with fibromyalgia. And once they get over the health issues, I mean, these amazing women that are just so, intelligent. I'm not, just
Oh, I know.
believe me, I've
Imagine
worked
if
with
you could
so
use
many.
it. Imagine
Yeah,
women that can't get pregnant or couples that can't get pregnant and they found a practitioner and work with them and see what might be blocking that too. I think that's amazing.
absolutely.
So do you have to actually be with a practitioner? Can they work with you over Skype if, you live in New York and they're in California or?
Absolutely. All the top practitioners work over Skype as well, so you can find somebody close to you. If not, just work over Skype, So the practitioners work with people all over the world. And so, yeah, matrixreimprinting.com, you'll find all the courses happening worldwide and also all the practitioners. And say, as you said, you can work over Skype. And it's not like, kind of some distance healing. I mean, there's very little difference between a face-to-face session and a Skype session. The client taps on themselves anyway. And, it's just all the same protocol, basically. So that makes no difference. Then, of course, the book, Donna, is available Amazon.com and in Amazon.co.uk. So you can get the book, and there's a lot of information there, as you said, the basics. We've had people who've just picked up the book, read through it, and started working on themselves. It's always going to be better working with somebody else, even if you're swapping with a friend who you both read the book, and obviously ideally with a practitioner. But just reading the book, it's a huge amount of information there, and all the knowledge is there, and it's not just a taster. I mean, literally, you can actually read the book and apply these techniques.
Well, you've done extraordinary work helping people all over the world, and now everybody knows my motivation, what inspired me to be someone who helps people get healthier. And have you ever explored that in yourself? Like, what's motivating you to do this amazing work? And look where it's gone. I mean, thousands and thousands of people are benefiting from it now. And so, where did that desire in you to help come from?
I think, like yourself, Donna, it's that kind of I had a spiritual experience when I was 21, and from that point onwards, I was always searching, and it kind of led me in directions. And it kind of, in retrospect, you kind of look back on your life and you see everything you've done kind of led you to what you do. Um, you know, um, I don't know. It becomes a passion. It seems like this is what you was here to do, and you've just got to do your best to get it out to the world and help as many people as possible. Totally relate to so much of what you said about your own journey with the therapies. In both of our cases, it's our own illnesses that led us to develop what we've developed and to find the answers that weren't there. Certainly when you go to the health system. So we had to find our own ways of getting better, and
I think there's probably a lot of people listening to us right now, Karl, that they're in that same place too, that maybe they can take their trauma. I would hope that they would take their trauma and their physical pain and suffering and overcome it, and then turn around and help others, like your practitioners have done, for example. So this has been a very personal podcast. I've certainly never done one like this before, and I feel like I've revealed a lot of stuff about myself, but I that's fine with me. I hope it helps people.
I know you're very open, Donna, and I thought you wouldn't mind.
I just can't thank you enough, Karl, for spending this much time with us.
It's been a joy to speak to you. I hope the listeners have enjoyed our chat. Have a wonderful day. Lots of love. Bye bye.
Bye bye.